Eric Schonfeld here with TechCrunch TV. Apple just reported record revenues and earnings, $46.3 billion in revenues, 37 million iPhones sold, 15.4 million iPads. I have Colin Gillis with BGC Financial, an analyst on the phone who covers Apple. Colin, thanks for joining us. Apple blew away even your estimates, which were pretty bullish, right?
Yeah, we were above consensus, and I mean, this company hit the ball out of the park on pretty much every single metric, right? I mean, you have to start with the iPhone number, right? That's 37 million units shipped in the quarter. People like the high end were whispering, 35 million, right? Expectations were for 30 million. So for them to deliver 37 million, it really just, it beat even the most bullish estimate.
And Tim Cook said at the end of the call that they could have sold more, but they were constrained by supply.
Yeah, and Eric, this is the thing. We are smack dab in the middle of this rotation from feature phones to smartphones. It's one of the best markets in the world. If you think about, the fact that we have 7 billion people on the planet, right? Each person is a consumer of most likely at least one handset, sometimes even more. That it's a large addressable market. We are in the middle of that rotation.
And it seems to me like it's really impossible to predict the pace at which this transition occurs. How do you deal with it, having to come out with specific, predictions and estimates quarter after quarter?
Yeah, it is difficult and it is lumpy. The thing that really surprised me was the company's ability to drive their gross margin. In fact, it was about 400 basis points higher than what people were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you have companies like Samsung, and then you've got what Microsoft and Nokia are doing, which is trying to get smartphones into the hands of people and drive down that ASP. It's hard to envision Apple maintaining its pricing while serving a wider marketplace, right? Either you have high-end goods, or you have mass market goods.
And
right?
what are Apple's margins versus the other competitors right now?
Yeah, I mean, Apple's margins are top of the charts, right? In fact, just to give you some perspective here, right? Their gross margins for the quarter came in at 44.7%, right? And it was an increase from 40.3%.
Wow.
In the September quarter. So it's just most hardware makers have very slim margins. You're talking gross margins in the 20% range if they're fortunate.
Right, double. So what is going on here in terms of not just the iPhone but also the iPad growth? You came out with a note earlier where you cautioned that there might be a hit taken to iPad sales because of the introduction of the Kindle Fire, which is $200 versus $500, and also just people delaying purchase of the iPad because of rumors of the iPad 3. So on both ends, it could have been hurt. But it seemed like
the numbers were not as impressive. I mean, they were still good, right? But this was an iPhone quarter. I mean, 15 million units on the iPad is a hefty number.
2 million more than you had.
Yeah, more than I had, more than what most people were expecting. I think again above even the high end of consensus. So clearly you didn't see any impact of people deferring your purchase for the holiday season. Now it is the holiday season, of course, right? If you want to give something as a gift, you can't wait for the next product. So that, it did benefit from that, right? But listen, there was no impact from inexpensive hardware, but it doesn't mean that's not something you want to keep an eye on and be concerned about, right? Because Amazon has showed that it's out there, using price as a weapon to get traction. That's probably the only way people are going to get traction into the tablet marketplace, just given the strength of the Apple ecosystem. And when you have Google buying Motorola, right, that acquisition is going to close relatively soon. Right? You're buying a hardware company. You know what you're likely to do? You're likely to build hardware.
So last question, Apple ended the quarter with $97 billion in cash. It's a lot of money burning a hole in their pockets. What do you think they should do with that?
Well, I think they should give it back to shareholders, right? I mean, it's not efficient for them to, let it sit there on their balance sheet. It's unless they're planning to go out and try to buy Facebook, which we don't see them doing. It's more cash than they could possibly humanly use, right? So when you have that much cash, you tend to return it via shareholder buybacks or dividends, and we look for Apple to do both. They talked about it on the call, but there is, I don't think this is Tim Cook's first and foremost burning desire.
So you think they're going to do that before they're going to do a big acquisition?
Correct, right? It's not in Apple's nature to do big acquisitions, and in fact, a big acquisition would probably be disastrous for Apple.
Right. Okay, Colin. Well, thanks for joining us so quickly after the call. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ark.